Do you love magic? Well, you're probably gonna love Legendborn. Do you love secret magic societies? Well, then you're probably gonna love Legendborn. Do you love magical tournaments where you have to prove yourself, kind of like the Triwizard Cup? Well, you're gonna love Legendborn. Legendborn by Tracy Deonn, a book that I have seen in every nook and cranny of the internet. It's a new contemporary YA fantasy, and boy oh boy, did I see a lot of hype for it. So naturally, I had to buy it, I had to read it, and here I'm about to review it. So first up, if you are a fan of YA fantasy, this book does a lot that you are probably gonna love. And not just the things that I mentioned a minute ago, there's also a lot of heavy themes in there like race and grief and death and murder and betrayal and love and enemies and seriously, so much more. This book moved around a lot at a breakneck speed and it was fun, pretty well from start to finish. And just quickly, before we get into the review, if you do want to see more from me, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you enjoy this video, give it a thumbs up. It helps me more than you probably even realize. All right, back to it. In Legendborn, we follow a young black girl named Bree who is overwhelmed with grief after the recent death of her mother under mysterious circumstances. And very early in this story, she sees people using magic and she realizes that no one else can see it. She's tapped into something that she didn't know ever existed and starts to slowly realize that there are secret magic societies that may just hold the clue to her mother's death. So what does a young go-getter boss chick do when she discovers magic for the first time that no one else can see? She infiltrates the secret societies and pursues her own personal agenda. I mean, what else are you gonna do? Now, to give you a quick breakdown on this secret society, because it is a bit complicated, but don't worry, absolutely no spoilers in this entire review. But this secret society's job basically is to protect humankind from the incoming demon creatures that can cross between their world and our world. And like I said, most people in this story can't see magic, so it's a very important role to keep people safe from an enemy that they can't even see. And an element that I absolutely loved about this story is that Bree, while going through all of this and trying to learn the ropes, also has to keep it a secret from her best friend, which is just eating her up inside. A really nice touch. Now, something that took me a little while to settle into and adjust to was the setting of this book, because this is not only a YA fantasy, but it's also contemporary fantasy, which is not something that I'm typically reading. So it was a little bit of an adjustment period for me, but I connected with Bree, our main protagonist, our main character, immediately. She was beautifully written, seriously, from start to finish. But I think that most people aren't going to struggle to connect with this setting, especially YA readers, because it's a contemporary fantasy. It's set at a school. I think they call it pre-college, and it's a pretty familiar territory for most people. It's just not something that I'm personally used to. Now, one massive props I want to give to this author is the way she handled grief, the way that Bree handled her mother's death. I thought it was so natural, it felt so authentic, and as this story progresses and her feelings change, that also felt like a really natural progression of what your emotions would be dealing with the death of your mother, especially a sudden death. Again, absolutely no spoilers, I promise. And while we're on a roll, I'm going to give more props to this author because I thought that she also executed the race issues beautifully. Bree is a young black girl at a predominantly white college, and it's really interesting, especially for me, to see how that character handled her environment and what she was thinking and feeling through this process, because that's the only way I can learn about these things. And I thought that Tracy Deonn, the author, did a beautiful job of portraying exactly what it was like for Bree in these environments and in this atmosphere. Something that I was really able to appreciate throughout the pages. And to give you a little glimpse, here is a quote from the book that gives you a taste of what I'm talking about. Growing up black in the South, it's pretty common to find yourself in old places that just weren't made for you. Maybe it's a building, a historic district, or a street. Some space that was originally built for white people and white people only, and you just have to hold that knowledge while going about your business. Now, most of the fun in this story is around the magic system and the magic secret society that we are very, very quickly and also a little bit slowly learning about throughout this book, and that is part of the massive appeal. The magic in this book was not super simple and not super straightforward. In fact, there were many different factions and many different elements of this magic, and each individual person, depending on their bloodline and their responsibility, had different powers that they could wield. And it felt almost quite messy for a long time in this book, but it definitely does improve, and there's no doubt that they laid the groundwork for what will come in the future entries in this series. And what I thought was excellent about this magic system is that because all these people had different responsibilities and different magic, it meant that they made the perfect ingredients for a secret society to get a job done that they needed to do for the safety of humankind. And Bree dives into this world head first. She is well and truly in the deep end, and even us as readers, we learn all of it as fast as Bree has to. And that's one of my complaints, which I'm going to get to now. Because Bree learns very early in this book that there might be a connection between this magic and this society and her mother's death, she has her own agenda. That's why she infiltrates this secret society, keeps it a secret, and is trying to convince everybody that she belongs and she knows the magic, even though she doesn't. And we don't. And while that is really fun in concept, what I found happened was that it felt like a lot of information was dumped on us very quickly, and it was kind of hard to find our feet within this society and within this magic. And it also meant we met a lot of characters of this society very, very quickly, which also meant that I didn't find myself caring about them for quite a long time, because it was just like, boom, here's a whole lot of information, a whole lot of characters. And while that's absolutely fine, and it totally sorted itself out as the book went on, it kind of kept me at an arm's length for a decent chunk of this book, maybe the first 250, 300 pages. And as we get to know this secret society more and more, you realize that there's a rich history that actually goes back to King Arthur, which was another really fun twist of this book. Don't worry, still not a spoiler, that's right there from the beginning, but it was just a really fun element of this book that I didn't know to expect. And also that I don't know anything about. And by the way, this book drives home super, super strong. I absolutely love the last 50, 100, maybe even 150 pages. It just started ramping up more and more. And for a decent chunk of the book for me, as a more adult fantasy reader, I wasn't sure if I wanted to continue with the series until those last 100 or 50 pages. And then I was like, yep, I gotta know what's going on next, and you'll probably have the exact same experience. So what I will say is, especially for young adults, this is going to be a really fun read. Yeah, there were some holes. Yeah, I had some complaints, but they weren't too serious. Overall, it was definitely a fun experience. Ladies and gents, give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it. It helps this channel so much. And most importantly, if you did enjoy this video and you want to see more from me in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'd love to have you as a part of the gang. Until next time, see ya!